When did your parents use you for money? What's the most twisted thing your family ever did to you? When I was 17, my parents threw me a beautiful funeral service. The only problem was that I was very much alive. My parents had always been obsessed with money in the most disgusting ways possible. They'd take out credit cards and dead relatives' names, steal packages from neighbors' porches, and constantly claim products were defective or damaged so we could get money back. When I turned 16, they took out a massive life insurance policy on me worth $500,000, telling me it was just in case something happened. They made me sign papers I didn't understand and kept talking about how I was their most valuable asset. The plan was simple and horrifying. They were going to fake my death, collect the insurance money, and keep me hidden until the investigation was over. They'd been planning it for months, setting up fake medical records showing I had a terminal illness, bribing a corrupt funeral director, and even arranging for a closed casket filled with weights. They told me if I didn't cooperate, they'd make my death very real and very painful. Living as a dead person was absolute hell. They moved me to a basement apartment in a building they owned across town, where I was basically their prisoner. They attached me to the wall with a long chain so I could get around the apartment, but I had no hope of getting out. I couldn't go outside, couldn't contact anyone I knew, couldn't even order food. My parents would visit once a week to bring groceries and remind me that if anyone saw me alive, we'd all go to prison for insurance fraud. Even if I could have broken free, they'd taken my phone, my ID, my social security card, everything that proved I was a real person. The worst part was that I could see my old school from the one window in my apartment, and every day I watched my old classmates work on building a memorial garden in my honor. I wanted more than anything to break free and run to my old friends and tell them I was still alive. But I knew that my parents' threats were legit. Meanwhile, they'd started a GoFundMe for my end-of-life expenses that raised thousands of dollars from people who actually cared about me. They came in cracking up one day, telling me my girlfriend had just given them $200. After 6 months of this nightmare, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd been working on loosening one of the bolts that held my chain to the wall, and I finally managed to break free. I made it to the window and started screaming as loud as I could. "Help me! I'm alive! My parents faked my death!" I could see people on the street looking up, and for a moment I thought someone might actually help me. Someone even came to the building's front door and started asking questions. I felt this incredible rush of hope that finally someone would realize I was really alive and this nightmare would be over. But my parents had planned for this too. They showed up and told the building manager that I was their nephew who was having a psychotic break and was obsessed with their dead son. They showed fake medical documents saying I was schizophrenic and dangerous, and the manager actually helped lock me back up. After that, I was given no leeway at all. They'd go weeks at a time without a grocery drop-off, and I truly thought I was going to die there. But then 2 months later, they came in with a very different energy. They'd gotten the insurance payout and were ready to move to another state. But in light of my recent behavior, keeping me alive had become too risky. Mom looked me dead in the eyes and said with a smile, "You're worth more to us dead than alive, and frankly, we're tired of pretending otherwise." They'd brought a bottle of pills and said, "At least it'll be painless." Dad grabbed my arms while Mom tried to force the pills down my throat. When I fought back, Dad slammed my head against the wall and snarled, "We should have done this months ago instead of wasting money keeping you fed." Mom was laughing as she tried to pry my mouth open, saying, "Just think, in a few hours we'll be grieving our poor son who's technically been dead for almost a year." They'd brought a bottle of pills to actually kill me, since no one would ever look for someone who was already dead. When I fought back, Dad slammed my head against the wall and snarled, "We should have done this months ago instead of wasting money keeping you fed." But just as my vision was going black, the door burst open. It was the police, and with them was my girlfriend, the same one who'd donated $200 months before, who I'd seen working in the community garden every day. That's where she'd been when she'd noticed my parents returning to this apartment week after week. She'd been tailing them ever since, and finally convinced the police to investigate, just in time. My parents were convicted of insurance fraud and attempted murder. I'm now 21, and still with my absolute hero of a girlfriend, but I struggle with the fact that for 8 months, I was legally dead, and no one believed I existed. Sometimes I catch myself checking my reflection just to make sure I'm really here.